What if the biggest star in the world feels like the loneliest person in it? What if the man who gave a voice to a generation's heartbreaks, triumphs, and late-night texts is himself trapped in a gilded cage of his own making, a king on a diamond throne, searching for a connection that fame can't buy and money can't build? Welcome to Star's Tale, where we don't just look at the spotlight, we journey into the shadows it casts, exploring the human heart that beats beneath the headlines and the platinum plaques. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a modern-day titan, an artist who redefined the sound of popular music and turned his city into a global empire. But to understand the man who calls himself the sixth god, we must first meet the boy who felt like he belonged nowhere, a young soul named Aubrey Graham. Before the sold-out arenas, before the chart-topping records, before the name Drake became a brand synonymous with global domination, there was a quiet, introspective child navigating the fractured geography of his own identity in Toronto. Born to a black Catholic father from Memphis, a drummer who had played with legends like Jerry Lee Lewis, and a white Jewish mother from Canada, an educator, Aubrey's very existence was a crossroads of cultures, a blend of worlds that rarely mixed in the manicured suburbs of Forest Hill where he grew up. His parents' divorce when he was just 5 years old was not a singular, cataclysmic event, but the beginning of a persistent tremor that would ripple through his entire life. He became a boy of two cities, spending summers in the gritty, soulful blues-soaked streets of Memphis with his father, Dennis Graham, a world of vibrant, raw black American culture, and then returning to the quiet, predominantly white and affluent world of Toronto with his mother, Sandy. This duality became his defining characteristic. He was never entirely one thing or the other. In Toronto, he was often the only black kid in his class, an outsider looking in. In Memphis, he was the Canadian kid with a different accent, an observer on the fringes. This feeling of being perpetually in between, of not quite fitting in anywhere, would become the foundational emotional soil from which his artistic identity would later grow. He wasn't from the streets, and he wasn't from the establishment. He was from the space in between, and in that space, loneliness was a constant companion. His mother, Sandy, became his anchor, his entire world. He watched her work tirelessly, sacrificing everything to provide for him, a quiet strength that he would later immortalize in his music. Her diagnosis with multiple sclerosis added a layer of profound weight to his young shoulders. He wasn't just a child with dreams anymore, he was a young man who felt an urgent, burning need to provide, to make her proud, to somehow heal the unhealable with the sheer force of his ambition. It was this pressure, this deep-seated desire to take care of his mother, that pushed him towards his first taste of the limelight, not in a recording booth, but on a television set. The world would come to know him as Jimmy Brooks on the Canadian teen drama Degrassi, The Next Generation. He was a natural, his emotive eyes conveying a depth that belied his age. But acting was, for him, a means to an end. The paychecks went to supporting his family, and while he was grateful, he felt a gnawing sense of being an imposter. He was an actor playing a part, but the role he truly craved was that of a musician, a rapper, an artist who could turn the tangled mess of his internal world into sound. He would leave the set of Degrassi and drive straight to a makeshift studio, pouring every ounce of his leftover energy into crafting rhymes, scribbling lyrics in notebooks, his mind a million miles away from the fictional hallways of his television high school. He was living a double life, the recognizable teen actor by day, and a hungry and proven rapper by night. The transition was brutal. No one in the music industry took the kid from Degrassi seriously. He was seen as a gimmick, a soft, privileged actor playing dress-up in a genre that valued authenticity and street credibility above all else. The ridicule was relentless, but it only sharpened his resolve. Every rejection was fuel, every condescending laugh a spark. He channeled that outsider feeling, the same one that had defined his childhood, into his music. He wasn't trying to be something he wasn't, he was trying to be exactly who he was, a complicated, emotional, and ambitious young man from Toronto. His early mixtapes, Room for Improvement and Comeback Season, were raw and unpolished, the sound of an artist finding his voice. They were filled with a desperate yearning, a palpable hunger not just for fame, but for respect. He was laying his entire soul bare, rapping and, more surprisingly, singing about his insecurities, his romantic failures, his anxieties about the future. This vulnerability was unheard of in the hyper-masculine world of early 2000s hip-hop, and it was this very quality that would become his secret weapon. The internet, then a burgeoning frontier for undiscovered talent, became his stage. Through MySpace and blog posts, his music began to circulate, a slow burn that was about to catch fire. The turning point, the moment that cleaved his life into a before and an after, came in the form of a phone call from a titan, a rap god whose approval could mint a career overnight, Lil Wayne. Hearing that Wayne not only liked his music but wanted to fly him out to Houston was like a dream breaking through the haze of reality. Aubrey Graham, the kid from Forest Hill, was being summoned by the king. The flight to Houston was a blur of anxiety and exhilaration. He walked into the studio, the air thick with creative energy and the weight of his own idol's presence, and played his songs. In that moment, he wasn't Jimmy Brooks anymore. He was Drake. And when Lil Wayne gave him his cosign, it wasn't just a record deal, it was a coronation. The world was about to change. With the backing of Young Money Entertainment, Drake unleashed So Far Gone in 2009. It wasn't just a mixtape, it was a manifesto. It was the sound of the future. The project, helmed by his longtime collaborator and production genius Noah 40 She-Bib, was a moody, atmospheric masterpiece that seamlessly blended introspective rapping with melancholic, R&B-infused singing. It was music for late-night drives, for staring at your phone waiting for a text, for the quiet moments after the party ends. The lead single, Best I Ever Had, was a cultural phenomenon, an inescapable anthem that catapulted him from underground curiosity to mainstream star. He had done it. The kid who was laughed at, the actor who wasn't taken seriously, was now on the radio, on television, and on his way to becoming a household name. But with success came a new kind of pressure. His debut album, Thank Me Later, released in 2010, was a commercial smash but felt rushed and hollow to Drake himself. He was caught in the whirlwind of his newfound fame, trying to meet the expectations of a label, an audience, and the industry. He felt like he was losing the very thing that had gotten him there, his authentic voice. The paranoia of fame began to creep in. Old friends became strangers, new faces had hidden motives, and the loneliness he had known as a child returned with a vengeance, this time amplified by the echo chamber of global celebrity. Determined to reclaim his narrative, he retreated with 40 to create his magnum opus, the album that would not only define his career but an entire era of music, Take Care. Released in 2011, Take Care was a deep, emotional dive into the psyche of a young man grappling with fame, heartbreak, and regret. It was the Toronto sound perfected, dark, sparse, and emotionally resonant. On tracks like Marvin's Room, he weaponized his vulnerability, creating an anthem of drunken, late-night desperation that was uncomfortably relatable to millions. He was no longer just making songs, he was crafting confessionals, turning his personal diary into a universal language. The album was a colossal success, both commercially and critically, earning him his first Grammy. He was no longer just a pop star, he was an artist, a respected visionary who had carved out his own lane. He had proven everyone wrong. The boy from Forest Hill was now sitting on top of the world. But the throne is a lonely seat. As his star ascended, his personal life became more and more isolated. The world he had created was one of constant motion, of private jets, five-star hotels, and sold-out stadiums, but it was a world experienced through a pane of glass. He was the eye of the hurricane, a point of stillness surrounded by chaos. His music reflected this growing sense of detachment. On 2013's Nothing Was the Same, the bravado was turned up, but the underlying melancholy remained. The album's title was a stark admission of his new reality. The anthemic Started From the Bottom was a deliberate rewriting of his own myth, a defiant cry against those who had dismissed his middle-class upbringing as not real enough for hip-hop. He was taking control, crafting his own legend. He wasn't just Drake, the artist, anymore, he was becoming the sixth god, the self-proclaimed deity of his hometown. He put Toronto on his back, rebranding it from a cold, secondary city into the Six, a cultural hotspot. His OVO, October's very own, brand evolved from a blog into a record label, a clothing line, a festival, an empire. He was a mogul in the making, a testament to his sharp business acumen and relentless ambition. Yet, with greater power came greater conflict. The world of hip-hop is a competitive battlefield, and the king is always a target. In 2015, he found himself embroiled in a high-profile feud with rapper Meek Mill, who accused him of using a ghostwriter. For an artist whose entire brand was built on personal confession and lyrical authenticity, it was a dangerous accusation. The industry held its breath, waiting for his response. It came not with an emotional appeal, but with a display of cold, calculated lyrical warfare. His diss track, Back to Back, was a masterclass in strategic destruction, dismantling his opponent's credibility with surgical precision. It was a cultural moment, a display of dominance that proved Drake wasn't just the sensitive lover boy, he was a shark who knew how to smell blood in the water. He had won the battle, cementing his position at the top of the rap hierarchy. His commercial dominance reached an apex with the 2016 album Views. It was a sprawling love letter to his city and the seasons of his life, spawning the global, record-shattering hits One Dance and Hotline Bling. The album's cover, featuring him perched atop Toronto's CN Tower, was a perfect visual metaphor for his status, alone at the highest peak, surveying his kingdom. The album sold millions and broke streaming records, yet some critics felt it was bloated, that he was becoming a victim of his own formula. The sensitive, vulnerable artist was now a pop machine, and the question began to linger, had he sacrificed artistic risk for commercial invincibility? He was untouchable, but he was also predictable. And in the world of art, predictability can be a quiet death. It would take a far more personal and devastating attack to truly shake his foundation. The simmering, years-long tension with rapper and good music president Pusha T finally exploded in 2018. It was a conflict rooted in years of subliminal disses and industry politics, but it would culminate in one of the most brutal and effective character assassinations in modern music history. After a series of back-and-forth tracks, Pusha T unleashed the story of Adi Don. It wasn't just a diss track, it was a surgical strike aimed at Drake's core identity. Over the beat of Jay-Z's The Story of O.J., Pusha T revealed to the world Drake's best-kept secret: he had a son, Adonis, whom he had not yet publicly acknowledged. The song's cover art was a shocking, out-of-context photo of Drake in blackface from an old photoshoot. The track went on to mock his friend 40's multiple sclerosis. It was a move of shocking brutality, a scorched-earth tactic that went far beyond the normal confines of a rap battle. For the first time in his career, Drake was completely exposed. His carefully constructed narrative, the one he had spent a decade building, was shattered in under 4 minutes. He, the master of controlling his own story, had lost control. The world waited for a response, a lyrical counter-assault of epic proportions. But it never came. There was only silence. Drake had been beaten, not by superior wordplay, but by the public revelation of his private life. He later admitted he had a response track ready, but he realized that some things were bigger than rap beef. This wasn't about winning, it was about protecting his family. His next move would be his most vulnerable yet. On his 2018 double album Scorpion, he finally addressed the rumors. On the track Emotionless, he confirmed the world's speculation with the line, "I wasn't hiding my kid from the world, I was hiding the world from my kid." And on March 14, he laid his soul bare, rapping about the complexities of co-parenting and the surreal experience of becoming a father under such tumultuous circumstances. It was a profound moment of transformation. The feud with Pusha T had inadvertently forced him to grow up in public. He was no longer just the certified lover boy, he was now a father, a man with responsibilities that dwarfed chart positions and streaming numbers. This new chapter has defined his present life. Drake, the global icon, is now also Aubrey Graham, the doting dad. His Instagram, once a curated gallery of his opulent lifestyle, is now frequently punctuated with heartwarming photos and videos of his son, Adonis. We see him teaching his son to play basketball, marveling at his artwork, sharing quiet moments of paternal love. This public embrace of fatherhood has added a new, more mature dimension to his persona. He seems more grounded, more human. The boy who grew up with a fractured family is now fiercely dedicated to building a stable, loving one for his own child. Yet, the machinery of his career continues to churn with relentless force. Albums like Certified Lover Boy, the collaborative Project Her Loss with 21 Savage, and For All the Dogs have continued his streak of commercial dominance, breaking streaming records and generating hit after hit. He is a one-man music industry, a walking algorithm for success. But the conversation around him has shifted. The once unanimous praise has been replaced by a more complex debate. Is he still the innovator, or has he become complacent, content to replicate the formula that made him a star? His music still tops the charts, but it no longer feels like it's pushing the culture forward in the same way Take Care or So Far Gone did. The hunger that defined his early career seems to have been replaced by the comfort of the throne. His lifestyle is a testament to the heights he has reached. His Toronto mansion, a sprawling, opulent estate nicknamed the Embassy, is a monument to his success, a palace of marble and luxury. His private jet, a customized Boeing 767 dubbed Air Drake, is a symbol of his global reach. He is a fixture at NBA games, a high-stakes gambler, a friend to the world's most powerful athletes and celebrities. He has achieved a level of wealth and influence that is almost unimaginable. But the old ghosts of loneliness and paranoia still haunt the lyrics. He raps about trust issues, about the difficulty of forming genuine connections, about the inherent emptiness of a life where everything is for sale. The gilded cage is more beautiful than ever, but it is still a cage. He has 100 million followers but seems to be searching for one true friend. He can buy anything he wants but seems to crave the things money can't purchase: peace, trust, and uncomplicated love. He is a paradox, the most connected yet isolated man in music, the most successful yet seemingly unfulfilled artist of his generation. The emotional core of his music, the very thing that made us all fall in love with him, remains the same because the emotional core of the man remains the same. He is still that kid from Forest Hill, the outsider looking in, only now he's looking out from the top of the world, wondering if there's anyone else up there with him. So what does the future hold for a man who has already conquered the world? The next chapter of Drake's story will likely be less about chasing records and more about cementing a legacy. He is no longer just a musician, he is a cultural institution. We can imagine him transitioning further into the role of a mogul, a modern-day Jay-Z, using his OVO empire to mentor and elevate the next generation of artists, not just from Toronto, but from around the globe. He might finally dive deeper into acting, trading the recording booth for the film set, seeking a different kind of artistic validation. Perhaps he will find a way to integrate his public persona and his private self more seamlessly, to find a balance between being the sixth god and being Aubrey Graham, the father. The ultimate challenge for him will not be to stay relevant, but to find contentment. Will the constant search for more hits, more money, more acclaim ever be satiated? Or will he find peace in the quiet moments, in his son's laughter, in the creation of art for art's sake, free from the crushing weight of commercial expectation? His legacy is already secure. He is the sound of the 2010s. He made vulnerability a strength in a genre that often punished it. He proved that you could be a global superstar without sacrificing your roots. He put his city on the map and became its most passionate and influential ambassador. But the final chapter of his human story, the story of Aubrey Graham, is still being written. We can only hope that the boy who felt he belonged nowhere finally finds a home, not in a mansion or a private jet, but within himself, at peace with the man he has become, the father he is, and the icon he will forever be. In the end, the story of Drake is a profound and modern fable about the price of a dream. It's a reminder that you can have the entire world singing your name and still feel like you're whispering into the void. What does Drake's journey mean to you? Has his music been the soundtrack to a moment in your life? Share your thoughts and your favorite Drake memory in the comments below. And if you want to continue exploring the real stories behind the biggest stars, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Star's Tale. We believe every star has a story, and every story deserves to be told.